Building the know, like, and trust is such a key point of any business or really any relationship, but it's a tough thing to do in a business relationship, especially just through marketing materials. Podcasting, though, just happens to be really, really good at helping develop that know, like, and trust piece. How does it do it? We are going to talk about that today, and we are going to talk about some very, very interesting news that pertains to businesses that are doing branded podcasts. Want to keep up on it? Stay tuned. Hey, thank you for stopping by. I really appreciate the fact that you are back here again this week. It means the absolute world to me. The only thing that I want to ask of you is if I can get your feedback, your comments, a follow if you're willing, but your feedback and comments are the most important thing to me because I really want to know what you want to hear about when it comes to your podcast. Tell me, and we will do our best to cover that. With that being said, we are diving into the know, like, and trust piece this week as our educational piece. To me, this is what a podcast does so beautifully. I always go back to a story that I have of when I was working at a semi-truck dealership. I had a YouTube channel that had a fair number of subscribers, had a couple of videos that went fairly well. I would occasionally get just random truck drivers coming into my office at the truck dealership. Hey, Josh, how's it going? And I'm like, who is this person? It took me a while to realize that these people knew me from the videos. They, according to them, they knew me. And that was huge because now these people, they knew me, they liked me. And when you've got that, going to trust is not a big jump there. So I went back and I looked at a bunch of things on that as to like what I was doing that made sure that people were coming along for that ride. Then I started talking with some other people and looking at some other things, and there were really some main keys with this. The first one was authenticity. I was me. I have a very, very difficult time acting as someone else. That anyone that knows me personally realizes that I sometimes say awkward things. I've become okay with it, but I realize that I am just me. That's just how it happens. So for me, it's very easy to be authentic on camera. Other people, just make sure that you're relaxed about it. You go about it the right way. If you try to be someone you're not, people pick up on that. Their Scooby sense, their bat sense, whatever sense they're using, it sends off some alarms, and people know that they're like, hey, this really isn't this person. They're not authentic. They're feeding me a line. There's that used car salesman vibe. No one wants that. So let your personality shine through, your natural personality, because especially if it's about the marketing or the business, some of that's already there. So you want to make sure that's what shines through. There's too many people out there that say, hey, I love what this person does, or I love what that person does. I'm not going to discourage you from taking pieces of what you like and what really, kind of gets you moving and what grabs you, I guess I would say. But you still need to be yourself. The example I use with this is the thing that I say at the very end. I very much kind of took that from Stephen Dubner of the Freakonomics podcast because I absolutely love it. But it's something that's also very authentic to me. It's something that when I say it, I feel it. I mean it. It's exactly there. Those are those things that you need to make sure that you're looking at. I know so many people, they see someone like a Gary Vee or a Dan Martell or any one of those people, Alex Hormozy, and they're like, oh, that's what I want to be. And you're not them. You definitely are not them. So be yourself. Act yourself and make sure that comes through. The big part of the reason on that is because people are connecting with individuals. It may be going to your business, but they still want to connect with people. And that is a huge, huge, huge thing. That is why many CEOs now, and I believe I've mentioned this before, are actually doing, like, instead of the big old conference call like they used to do for their earnings, they're literally like going live on TikTok or Snapchat or Instagram. They're going live on platforms and just reading off the numbers. That's how they're doing it. And questions will come in that way that they will address. But it's once again, it's authentic. It's the CEO being authentic. There's a lot of people that are really starting to get that message that people want to do that. I'm sharing some of my stories here. I'm sharing some of my experiences because, once again, those are lived things. Those are authentic things. It's real. The biggest takeaway from this: people want to work with people. Make sure that you are showing up authentically you. If you're not, you are never, ever, ever going to build that know, like, and trust. The next piece to that is consistency. Is your podcast not getting the results you hoped for? Are you feeling stuck and unsure how to grow your audience or make a real impact? We get it. Podcasting can be a challenge, but with the right strategies, it can be an incredibly powerful tool. That's why we're offering our free no-pitch podcast consultation. We'll spend 30 minutes with you identifying areas for improvement on anything from optimizing your audio or video quality to developing a content strategy that resonates with your customers. If you're ready to unleash your podcast's full potential, visit the link in our show notes to schedule your free consultation. Space is limited, so sign up today so we can help you create a podcast that truly shines. There are days where recording a podcast is tough. I'm looking at the calendar. We've got a great podcast business here. And I'm looking at the calendar and I'm like, I got to film a podcast and I have no idea when I'm going to do this. You have to build that consistency, though. It doesn't need to be every week. I know that's difficult for a lot of people. Every other week is a good cadence. Once a month is tough because people forget about you. You haven't worked your way into their plan or into their routine, I guess I would say would be the better way to put it. The consistency builds familiarity. Is a thing. If you're consistently showing up every week, every other week, the thing I guess I would say is it first off becomes something that people look forward to. There's certain podcasts that I absolutely love. Monday, Thursday, I'm like, oh yeah, it's podcast release day. I'm excited for this. These are things that I'm looking forward to. These people are showing up for me. And that's a huge thing. If they miss or if they aren't releasing, it kind of feels like a letdown. What I'm using that as a bridge to also is the fact that a consistent schedule suddenly gets that reliability. We all have that one friend that shows up late to everything. You have a tendency to lose a little bit of that trust or that reliability in them. If you show up every week or every other week at the same time for people, you have now built reliability in. Reliability is very much a component of trust. Once again, this is all about building that know, like, and trust. You're authentic. If you're authentic, hopefully they're going to like you. Be okay if people aren't going to like you. But if you show up consistently, you are now working on building that trust piece very much so. That's that second component of that is actually huge when it comes to that know, like, and trust. The other thing that I want to say with that is don't just broadcast. Do things as a conversation if you can. We're talking about the know, like, and trust thing. I'm asking for your comments up front. I'm curious as to what your thought is on the know, like, and trust piece. I want to ask you the questions about, like, hey, when's the last time you actually thought about that? When's the last time you were intentional about putting that know, like, and trust in your podcast? By asking you these questions, I've now engaged you. I've turned your brain on. You're still driving down the road or working out, or you're still on the Stairmaster or wherever you're listening to. You're still doing that thing. But in the same sense, I've got you thinking about, hey, when did I do this? How do I do this? With that, encourage the feedback, because I want to hear like how you're using the know, like, and trust. Where are you using it? How does it fit in? Additionally to that, you're never gonna complete that circle of it unless you're handling the post-production side of it here. And by post-production side, I want to say, look, you got to respond to emails. You got to respond to comments. You need to do that in a timely manner. We've got I've seen a number of people out there where there's comments just hanging there. Even if it's something negative, you don't fight it. But hey, thanks for leaving the comment. Something there. You need to acknowledge those, because what you want to make sure that you're doing is you show people that you value their input. You're genuinely interested in connecting with them. And even if it's a negative comment, if you approach that with a thank you, suddenly that person's going to realize, hey, maybe this is someone that I want to engage with. Maybe this is someone that I could build something with. Maybe this is something that I'm interested with. It's going to help you build that sense of community. It's going to help you build those pieces that will help build the podcast as a whole, rather than just a speaking platform or just an announcement platform or just anything like that. It will help you build that engagement. And that engagement is the thing that we talk about so much, that is such a big key. Is if you just have people listening, that's okay. That's good. But to get people truly engaged, that is that is where you start to step up to that next level in things. I hear some podcasts that there are people on there talking and rambling. I get it. I ramble too. I'm sure that's why some of you listen to me at 1.5 speed, and I'm good with it. I listen to a lot of podcasts at 1.5 speed also. The big thing is for me that I always tell myself that I was trying to make sure that we're doing. I was trying to make sure that any of our podcasters are doing, offering value. The equation that I personally always look at is someone is giving up some of their time to listen to me, to watch me, to whatever it is. They're engaging. They feel that it is worth their time to listen to or to watch what we have going on. Time is a really valuable thing. I got to make sure it's worth it. I take that very, very seriously. So I'm doing everything that I can to make sure that throughout the podcast, I am offering value, a good, high-level, consistent value to anyone and everyone that's listening. Now, in that value, I want to make sure that I'm educating. Look, we're a business. We do podcasts. We help people with podcasts. You know that. I want to make sure you don't feel like I'm pitching you in this, because that, once again, will destroy that like and trust very, very, very quickly. So make sure you're offering that value through the podcast. Through the other thing that you can do is you can offer resources. You can offer downloads. That is a great way to not only offer value to people, but in return for that value, you're going to get some email addresses, or you're going to get some information about those people. That is absolutely huge. So make sure that you are finding ways to offer value to people. In addition to that, make sure that you're creating opportunities in that value for them to connect. The last thing that I want to talk about, I mentioned pitching. It's a tough one. You want to have a call to action, but make sure that that call to action is focused on building the relationship. So you want to guide people towards becoming clients. You don't want to jam them that way. You want to give them great information that allows them to go down the natural path to say, hey, I got some really good information here. I want to learn more about that. How do I learn more about that? Well, I engage with them. That is one of the reasons why, first off, I love doing the podcast, because I'm helping to engage with people. But in the same sense, I'm going to give you that call to action. That's why we offer our free consultation, our no pitch podcast consultation. Most of the time I'm going in and I'm looking at people's podcasts and I'm saying, hey, move the camera, change your microphone. You are going to look and sound 10 times better. Have a great day. And they all look at me like, what? Yes. My call to action is to bring them in to talk like that. And we're going to look at the email addresses. And someday, I hope that they're going to become a client because we were able to help them early. The other thing that I said, you can always invite people to download a resource. That can be your call to action. Once again, you're going to get the email address from it. They're going to get some, what hopefully you've set up as really good information. If you have a 15, 20-minute podcast and you dive into a topic, you give a great surface level, like, here's the basics of what you need to know. You can also encourage people to go to your website. Hey, go to our site if you want to learn more. Make sure you've got the right information for them there, but go have that information out there. The key is to provide value and build the trust before making a sell. And really, this call to action is a way to do that. You can, once again, you're providing those values, you're building that trust. And once again, this is all that know, like, and trust, because as you're doing these things, they're getting to know you, and hopefully they're getting to like you. Don't be worried if it's everyone that likes you, though. With that, that is the educational bit. What are your questions on this? I really am curious about what your questions are for the know, like, and trust. Put them in the comments, reach us through the website, however you want to do that. Send an email, send it snail mail, whatever you want to do. I would love to hear about it. I would love to get your feedback on it. Next up, we are going into some very, very interesting news. And now we are to the news, which I am actually pretty stoked about. It's some interesting news. If you are looking to do a branded podcast, I'm going to do this a little bit different this week, and I'd love to hear if you like how we're doing this. So Signal Hill Research just released some information that branded podcasts are a highly effective way for marketers to reach their audience. There is a positive, like they call it a halo effect on brand perception, because as a brand, you're throwing stuff out there for people to digest and people to learn from. It drives brand awareness and consideration, they found. It's good for reaching engaged audiences. Listeners see brands as more thoughtful and credible. Did we just talk about know, like, and trust? I believe we did. Branded podcasts build deeper connections than other ad formats. Find that interesting. Once again, know, like, and trust related here. The halo effect is strongest when a podcast aligns with brand values. Would make sense to do that. That's why we help people do that. Podcast guests are the key to success. I'm going to break that down here in a second. Authentic voices resonate. Production quality matters. And they want to make sure that you are promoting the podcast as its own thing. Do not rely on organic discovery alone. This study is one of those things where, as I was reading it, I was like, all information that we have found. It's always interesting to get. Have you ever done something where you're like, okay, this seems like this is the right answer, but you can't be 100% for sure. And then someone else comes along with hard data and is like, that is the right answer. And you're like, yeah, that pretty much looks like what I was thinking. That is exactly kind of what this study did for me. And that's why I was so excited about it. We all know it's going to drive that brand awareness and consideration. That to me is a big thing, that you can create a ton of great content with a podcast. And once again, it's going to drive that awareness. So much of marketing is about these touch points, getting out there and making sure that you are in front of people. Does someone see an ad on television for a certain pickup truck? Do they see that ad on television and be like, you know what? I got to get a truck this afternoon and run right out to the dealership and buy? No, they don't. But when they see one brand's ad time after time after time after time, when it finally hits them that they need a new truck, guess where they're probably going to go? They're going to go where they've seen that ad time and time and time again. Podcasting gives you the ability to do that. The point that they made about listeners seeing brands as more thoughtful and credible when they're doing a branded podcast. Now, this to me, I found very interesting, because what it does is it shows that you're trying to disseminate information to people. You can't just go on to a podcast and be like, our stuff is great. We do great stuff. Our stuff is, no one cares. Absolutely no one cares. But if you educate people and they draw the conclusion that, oh, hey, yeah, you know what? That's really smart. And oh, by the way, that's what their product does. Suddenly we've made this very, very simple connection that to me, once again, this comes back to that know, like, and trust. It's thoughtful. It's credible. They know you. They like you. They trust you. They're going to go to you for this. Signal Hill noted that podcast guests are a key to success. And we've talked about that quite a bit. For me, it was difficult because I started to notice some podcast creep, and that is why we're going with some of the solo stuff. Now, I do have a couple of guests coming up, as I have mentioned before, that will be back. But those guests really help to talk about what you do or how it's helped them or their involvement in an area that you're in. To me, those guests do a great job of being also able to help you promote things. Getting out on their socials. I say this all the time. The number one way to grow your social channels is to use someone else's. Get them to post, get them to tag them. All those things really help. Now, in this, I want to say, and I want to reemphasize this, you need to make sure that they have an authentic voice also. If it's someone that's in an industry that's kind of there because, like, yeah, it's a job, I guess. I got to be here Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. That's not the right person. If it's the person that's super passionate about what they do, they're excited about what they do, they are engaged in their portion of the community, that is who you want to bring on. Signal Hill also noticed that production quality matters. As we go down the road, there are more and more tools to make it easier and easier for you, whether it's at home or here in one of our studios. If you're at home, you can get so much better production quality than you could 4 or 5 years ago, even a couple of years ago. There's a ton of tools that we have available that will help you in doing that. The big thing that you need to really invest the heaviest in is that storytelling aspect of it. What story are you telling with that? Because that raises that production level. When I say production level, often you think of the microphone, the camera, maybe that camera over there, any one of these cameras. It's less about that than it is that storytelling, that pre-production. What thought did I put into this? The other stuff, we can help you clean that up. The other thing is promote the podcast. The thing that I love is earlier in the episode when I was talking about the educational piece, I talk about always adding value. There's ways for you to add value in kind of a circular format for people. This is one of the things that I kind of love about the podcast is you can do a podcast. Off of the podcast, you can do a blog post. So from the podcast, you can refer people to the blog post. You can also, from the podcast, get people to sign up for your email newsletter or refer them to your website. All these kind of go to your website, to the podcast, etc. From there, also on the podcast, we can encourage you to build those social media clips. When you build those social media clips, guess what? You're going to refer people to the website, to the email newsletter, to the blog, to the podcast, right? Are you seeing the circle here? In the email newsletter, guess what? You're going to talk about the blog, the website, and maybe the podcast. Yep. Definitely the podcast. So to me, it's that circular flow of things that allows you to promote all aspects and allows you to stay in touch with people. What we find is interesting. When TikTok went down, there was a bunch of TikTok creators that were like freaked out because they had all their eggs in that one basket. We're rapidly seeing SEO change with this AI search. People are asking more questions and doing less searching for things. So how do we make sure that we're staying at top of mind for people? Well, email is going to be a way to do that. Making sure they're connected with your website is going to be a way to do that. Making sure they're connected with your blog and social media ways is going to be a way to do that. The podcast is another, I don't want to call it a tentacle because I feel like it's reaching out and grabbing people in a nefarious way. It's not. It's obviously, it's keeping people in your ecosystem, it is another way to talk to people. There's a lot of people I know that say, hey, look, if I get an email, if it's got a company name on it, I'm out. And that's fine. You're going to get to those people through your podcast. Through your podcast, you may be able to get more email addresses. So there's people like me that I look at most of my emails. Yeah, if it's spam, I'm going to send it to spam. But if there's something of value in it, I'm going to go ahead and read that email. So to me, it's once again, it comes down to that adding value. But if you do that, I fully believe in what Signal Hill research has found here also, that branded podcasts are hugely effective for marketers. With all that being said, as I mentioned, I would love your feedback. I would love your comments. If you're willing to rate the podcast, by all means, please do. Would love to get that from you. We have another interesting topic that I am already working on for next week. Yes, already working on for next week. I'm going to have a lot of fun with this. As always, I want to make sure that you take care of yourself. If you can, take care of someone else too. I will see you soon. Creating engaging content can feel overwhelming, but it doesn't have to be. That's why I'm excited to share our Stomping Podcasting newsletter. You'll get actionable insights and expert tips straight to your inbox. These are to help you maximize your video marketing and podcasting return on investment. Head over to the show notes and click the link to subscribe to our free newsletter. Don't miss out on this opportunity to become a video marketing and podcasting pro.